Awesome, awesome. So, welcome everyone. I am beyond excited today. Today's guest is in my opinion, incredible Jessie Krebs. She is an expert at harnessing and working with, not against nature. And if I may say so myself, she is a true force of nature herself.
Mm.
As one of the few female SERE specialists in the U.S. Air Force, she not only survived her own childhood baggage, but she's thrived in the wilderness. She has a passion for empowering women through what is traditionally considered masculine skills, and she has transformed countless lives. From National Geographic's Migrations to the reality series Alone on Amazon Prime to her incredible masterclass, which is how I learned about her, and now starting her OWLSSkills, which is Outdoorsy Women Learning Survival Skills School, with the passion of women working together and supporting each other in a safe yet challenging way. So, without further ado, Jessie, welcome. Thanks so much for showing up.
Oh, it is awesome to be here, David. I've heard, just you talking and what you shared with me when we started emailing and things, and I just love the work you're doing. So thanks for the invite. This is
Oh yeah,
awesome.
it's amazing. So before we dive into the story, I'm a glass or I suppose mug half full kind of guy. So what is one good thing that happened to you today?
Oh, today I had started, let's see, I started reaching out to people a few days ago. I was going to do an interview for a TV station, and he's like, "Oh, it'd be great if you had a class." And I'm like, "Well, gee, I don't have a class scheduled, but I can pull
Mm,
together some friends." And I started
yeah.
going through my contacts list and reaching out to people I hadn't spoke to in years. And one of them is Trina, who I met like 14 years ago. She's a musician and a dancer, and she was a really neat person. I'm like, "Oh, Trina, I haven't spoken to her in forever."
Wow.
And she had been living in the area. And so I found out she's playing a gig in Golden on tomorrow night. So I'm going to go and see her. And I'm inviting a bunch of other friends. So just reconnecting with people I haven't spoken to in a long time. So that's always fun.
Wow. So that is definitely picking up on some wavelength energy because a couple of friends we were hanging out with last night, they hadn't seen each other in over 20 years. And then a friend that I was talking to, a dear friend, was telling me how he went into the city yesterday and reconnected with someone that he hadn't seen in many years. So spring reawakening, right? I'm feeling
Yeah.
like this is touching on a lot of nature themes, right? Like we're blossoming right now.
Yeah. And everything fitting together, the community
Yep.
coming together. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
So I love that is the parallel. So I kind of gave the hype, the bio, which all of that is true in my humble opinion, but I would love for you to kind of tell your sort of nutshell story from your own perspective, a little bit about maybe your career and how you got started with things.
Oh, yeah. Really, my connection with wilderness started when I was an infant, and it was unfortunately a bad experience. But I had infant and childhood sexual abuse, and it was my grandmother's second husband. And so mom would drop me off, of course, not knowing what was going on, and but they lived down the country. And so to get away from the house and away from him, I would run off into the woods around the area, and I'd play in the woods all day and just stay out of the house and away from him as much as I could. So that was my first connection. And I was a really shy, quiet kid. But my mom also, she's a big adventurer. She loves travel. She's very gregarious, very opposite of me in a lot of ways. And so I ended up joining the military because she was like, "You're going to go to college one way or another." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. Okay, we'll do." So it gave me college and it gave me travel. And mom had really given me the travel bug. So I joined the Air Force, found out about SERE training about 15 days into training. They showed it on the screen, and I was going to be a mechanic, and then saw everything outside, and I'm like, "That looks a lot better." So I joined up to go up to the SERE school and went through the training there, and that really established kind of the rest of my life. Because I learned so many skills. It taught me to be a global survival instructor,
Mm,
and it taught me a lot of confidence. I went in like looking down at the ground, walking pigeon toed, barely speaking above a whisper, you know. So the instructors, I had several times an instructor in my face going, use your instructor voice. And I'm like, yes, Sergeant.
Wow.
Right. And so it really helped transform at least the exterior. I had a lot of work still to do on my emotional self, but that really helped me step into confidence and being capable of owning a group basically and seeing what was going on in a group. And I actually think, you know, every curse, every pain, every trauma can be a blessing depending on how we use it. So later when I got into working in wilderness therapy, that started working on the internal stuff, and it gave me a better awareness because of my abuse as a kid. I was very aware of how people were feeling, you know, body postures and tone of voice and all of that helped me be more hyper aware of what was going on with people, and that really helped in wilderness therapy and working with people.
Wow. And the way, so when I was watching you on Masterclass, I hadn't reached out to you. I didn't know who you were. I was fascinated with the practical stuff, right? Like the guy mentality, like, oh, that's a really cool trick. That's how you start fire. And, I had maybe some like ultra foundational knowledge, but you like, just watching those couple of hours and your energy on Masterclass just blew my mind. And then you dropped that bomb about your trauma and your history. And I was just, you were already so highly engaging that ability to tell your story in such a, not a matter of fact way, but in such a confident way of like, this is what happened to me, and this is kind of the, oh gosh, like this is the beautiful human being that I've become despite or because of it. That to me was like the most powerful thing about the whole thing, even though all the practical advice that you gave me, I can now use if I get, stranded, or if I go on a longer hike or something like that. So I
Yeah.
was just like so grateful for you. And I was like, this is a human being that I want to continue learning from. So the fact that you said yes to this episode just again blows my mind.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure. Like, you know, that's what I want to do. I want to help people that feel like the wilderness isn't for them. It's never
Mm,
been for them. Maybe they don't feel comfortable in it or safe in it, or something that maybe they have a longing in their heart for, but feel like that's been denied them or it's not really supposed to be for them. And
mm,
I just want to open that door, and it's had so much healing for me in my life. I spent 11 years working in wilderness therapy and
wow.
showing, you know, helping students connect with that, and just watching the universe, nature work in their lives, and seeing how people would come in at just the right time to connect with each other and sometimes piss each other off, right?
Sure.
And make each other angry, or just, ah,
Mm,
and they wouldn't like the parts of them that they saw in the other person. And then watching them heal together and watching the wilderness like hold that container for
mm,
them. And there's no judgment in wilderness. Where can we go, right, in this
yeah,
world, especially with social media now and everything, where you don't have judgment?
yeah.
So it's just so beautiful. It's not malicious, it's not trying, it's just doing what the wilderness does. And you can either adapt to that and understand that it's not, and that it's also at the same time it's throwing you a storm, it's giving you water. So you don't have to go to the creek, right?
Mm,
You don't have to boil the
mm,
water. You can just collect it off your tarp, right? Or your,
yeah.
so there's, you can work everything that life throws at you. You can see how you can stand up, and you can use that to your advantage versus getting beaten down by it. And I think that's that empowerment. That's a really
Mm.
powerful lesson to learn for folks.
Wow. So there, again, you're dropping so many gems, and I'm just like I'm trying to pick all of them up. The phrase wilderness therapy really resonates with me. I'm a coach, so I'm not a therapist, but I have been to therapy. Many, if not most of my friends have been and found value there. I am a coach. I believe in mentorship and coaching and therapy and all the modalities. But because I was born on a farm in Poland, I have a particular soft spot for the power of nature. We grew up right by a forest. I was collecting mushrooms as a little one, non-hallucinogenic ones, but mushrooms, edible mushrooms,
Right.
delicious
Yeah.
mushrooms, healthful, nutritious, nutrient-dense mushrooms. And so I have a particular affinity for that. Also, I've only rather recently heard the term biophilic design or biophilic therapy,
Mhm.
when you're trying to bring in nature into sort of the city or into our homes, a little bit more of that, so that way we can have nature and experience her beauty and her awesome power every day, and not just for those few times when we decide to, go hike or scale the mountaintop. So that is something that comes to mind. But also when you were talking about like using the rainstorm to capture water, I'm so glad that I thought of the idea that you're somebody who really does work with nature and not against it. And it reminds me of like martial arts, where you're kind of using the opponent's power against them as opposed to try to resist. So, anything else to add on that before we move on?
Oh, just that it's a beautiful modality. I think getting people away from screens and technology, there's no electricity.
Yeah.
So many people just sleeping on the ground, literally on the ground. It's like they're, I don't know if it's because you're grounding, they would have
Mm,
dreams. They hadn't dreamt. They couldn't remember their dreams for years prior. And suddenly they're coming out there and they're remembering their dreams. And they're integrating with people on a level that's it's like 24/7. There's
mhm.
no going off to your room. There's no separation all
Wow.
day, 24 hours a day. You go to sleep, but even then there's you can hear so and so snoring faintly back here, right? And
Right.
you can hear someone turn over in their sleeping bag here. And you can hear all the other things. You can hear the coyotes in the distance and you can hear the owl in the night, right? So all these things are happening around you that keep you linked to community. And it's not like that in our homes. And
Yeah.
so it's a very
Yes.
immersive style of therapy that I think is just fantastic. And people would get so close. I mean, we think about our family. It's like, oh, how close with your people would get closer with the group they happen to be with for those 2 months, much closer, and tell them things they'd never told their family even. So it's a beautiful thing. And I'm really sad right now in a lot of ways because apparently I don't do a lot with like current events and stuff, but the one of the programs that I worked for like 7 years, and another one that they're going out of business right now because apparently some Kardashian had a bad experience with the wilderness therapy program, or she didn't like
Mhm.
it, so she badmouthed it, and then they did a Netflix thing on a program back in the 80s that was an awful program apparently, and so there's not enough business right now. So these beautiful wilderness therapy programs that have changed, transformed so many lives, including mine, are going out of business. And I'm really sad about that.
Well, you know what? We got to be the change we want to see in the world. And listen, not every modality is for everybody. There are some people who are like, "Oh, I can't do yoga, or I don't do meditation, or I don't exercise." Everybody, some different things work for different folks, I suppose. But I just know from my own experience, as well as the experience of some very, very type A New Yorkers with whom I used to work. They're like, "Oh my God, I went to Central Park today during lunch, and it was amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, you could do that every day if you wanted to for 15
Yeah,
minutes, right? Or half an
yeah.
hour, or." And so for them, it was like this massive experience. And that shows how much they've deprived themselves of that Monday through
Mhm.
Friday, or for a month, or for the last, few years. So I actually think that even though there might be like a lull, or sometimes the pendulum swings one way or the other, sort of socio-culturally or politically, I think there's a need. It's a primal need of ours to connect with nature, and so I'm hopeful. I acknowledge your sadness, and I feel it too. But I am hopeful that there's a need, and as more people are kind of exposed to it, I think there's an opportunity there for a little bit more visibility. So that's my take on that. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. Yeah, sure. Things are cyclical for sure.
Yeah.
So it'll probably cycle back again. And I'm just right now I'm seeing, friends that I've had for years who are still working in wilderness therapy, and they're losing their jobs right now and
Mm,
having to go to other things. And
yeah.
yeah, I'm just bummed that so many people right now are going to miss out on it. But
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's a desire for connection with wilderness and with wild places, and I think it'll come back around. It will.
Yeah, and even just continuing stories, like I was really kind of obsessed for a minute with the series Alone on Amazon
Mhm.
Prime. And but again, I heard about you first through the master class, and then I had to watch that series. I think it was season 9, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. And
Correct.
you were amazing. And anybody who's watching and listening, please go watch Alone on Amazon Prime. I get no money from Amazon Prime, none at all, but I that show was fantastic. Just the impact it has on your psyche. How many days you were like out there for like 40 plus days, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, 46. I had hoped to be out there a lot longer, but
Yeah.
it was actually the acidity in my stomach
Mm,
and the environment.
yeah,
Everybody got sick on my season, had issues with acid.
sure.
but my physiology, I react a lot. I apparently produce way more acid than most people. So they were worried I was gonna perforate my stomach.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So they pulled
Okay.
me out.
46 days is incredible, and you build your hodgepodge lodge. Every time you called it that, like my heart would flutter. It was just the cutest thing. But also you were showing, I mean, you were building a mansion there. Like I thought,
I was.
people were gonna like do like a lean-to, but and you were building a freaking house. So
Yeah.
I was proud on your behalf. But let me ask you this. So what we talked a little bit about, I think you mentioned like you're a bit of an introvert. So what fills your cup and what drains your energy? What fills your cup and what drains your cup?
Mm, I think I'm like most people. I like fun stuff. So I loved theater. It was really weird because I'm an introvert, but I also loved theater. And I think it was the chance to pretend I was somebody else. And I
Mm,
don't have to do that anymore, but I still really love theater. So I love singing and dancing. I love going on adventures. My boyfriend is awesome. We've been together for 9 years, and a couple years ago we got adventure kitties. Yeah, they were just kittens, siblings, and so we had them out on the kayaks within a few days of getting them, and so they're kayak trained, and we take them out camping and
that's
hiking and
awesome.
stuff, and so I enjoy that kind of stuff. I like socializing with friends. I like reading a good book. I like going on solo adventures a lot if I can, whenever I can. I learn most. Usually, when I'm out in the woods, I'm teaching someone, or I have a group of people I'm
Yeah.
responsible for. So going out there alone, that helps fill me up a lot. That's a lot better for me because I can challenge myself and problem solve and those types of things. So being outside in general and doing something fun is always good. And depleting, usually it's a lot of screen time. And not
Yeah.
this, like I love talking and having quality time with someone and like really delving into what makes us tick and who we are and all that. My bachelor's is in educational psychology. So
Oh wow.
what they say, those of us who go into psychology, it's because we need therapy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
please, right?
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, this kind of stuff is fine, but I end up doing a lot more of like just typing and things that I don't like as much.
Yeah.
So that tends to deplete me more. Or if I'm overworking, that was actually something I learned in Alone is that I was working too much. And I went out there with the intention of having fun, but I ended up fairly quickly thinking of it as more of a mission. And especially as I got sick, it was harder for me to like stay positive and just have fun. So if I work too hard too much, which I'm trying to remedy, mostly because of Alone, of really realizing that. And I had some life issues lately. Like my dad found out last year he had cancer in July, and he passed on November 3rd. So I had taken a lot of time off work to go and be with him, and then afterwards did a solo trip, taking off. So yeah, life happens to all of us, and there are things that can be really hard to deal with. So those can definitely deplete us. And for me, I personally want the nature time and socialization and good friends around to help come back from that and feel full again.
Such a rich response. I mean, goodness, how do I like follow up with that? I'll say this though. You talked about nature as sort of like, the non-judgmental, like nature doesn't judge us. It's sort of, I think of it almost like the great equalizer. Like whatever social problems we have, whatever problems we have with our spouse or our boss or ourselves, we ain't gonna be able to run away from that when we're, out in the mountains for a few days or a few weeks. So it's certainly not for the faint of heart, but I do think that there are programs that I'm sort of aware of that, ease the urban person that doesn't have, that they live in the city, that they don't have a lot of experience with nature, and
Mhm.
yet they find incredible value there, right? So I've seen it with my own friends who are more homebodies, who are a little bit more sort of self-identified as high maintenance. When they do get out there, there might be too many bugs, and they might get, a few mosquito bites, but overall, they appreciate the experience and are so much better for it at the end. So, yeah, any thoughts on that? Does that resonate or?
Yeah, definitely. I remember being a kid and just wanting to get away from people, and I just climb a tree. People hardly ever look up. And being somewhere and just sitting up in a tree and watching people and watching the world and connecting with the tree, and that felt really good to me. So the universe it'll give us what we need, and it's much better than being in a sterile home where the walls don't change, the carpet doesn't
Yes.
change, it's all the same. And so having interactions that just get us outdoors and exploring and seeing just how big the world is, it can be get very small, and that's what I love about wilderness too, is you go out there and after a while, the thoughts start to slow down and we stop. It usually takes a few days though, for me, before a lot of that can drop away. And I remember one of my first college courses, he said there had been studies done where people would come, they did studies and said about out of every minute, right? We got 60 seconds in a minute. And out of that minute, and I can't remember the exact numbers it was now, but it was like 25 seconds out of every minute we're thinking about the future. And about
Wow.
30 seconds out of that minute, we're thinking about the past and like rerunning what happened back then. And only about 5 seconds are we actually paying attention, like really paying attention to what's going on around us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so how much of my life am I actually living if I'm that much in my head all the time? I think Mark Twain said something like, I have been through horrible catastrophes and tragedies in my life, most of which never happened.
Oh, I gotta use that one in my coaching
Right?
session.
It's
That's
such a
awesome.
good quote because that's what
Yeah.
we do. We
Yeah.
rewrite the past and think about how we should have done things differently, or that conflict we've got with someone or with our work or whatever, or we're thinking about the future and what it's going to be, and there might be fear or there might be anticipation, but how much are we living in the here and now, and how much of what stories we're creating in our life are actually real and actually happened or are ever going to happen versus being present right
Right.
now. And that's been said by so many sages in so many different ways, right? Over and over again in the history of humankind.
Yeah.
It's just hard for us to put that into practice and to really encapsulate it, to really choke it down and make it part of our everyday life.
Wow. Well, I think like with other things, it requires reminders, daily vigilance practice, right? Because it's easy to kind of fall into that sort of forget about it or fall into ruts. And when we come across, angels and awesome human beings like you, like for me, it's a reminder, ooh, let me carve out more time per day outside and things of that nature. So, I don't need like the leaders of the world to tell me that. I actually prefer that to get that news or those reminders from my peers and people I admire, like on masterclass or now on Instagram. Like I just love your content there. So appreciate you there. I've got so many other things to think about. Like when you said, the present, the past, that makes me think depression, the future makes me think anxiety, and then 5 seconds of pure bliss, right? So that's how I think of it from the psychological standpoint. And it's like how much energy are we wasting on these thoughts, frankly, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So wild, wild, wild. So tell me a little bit about, in your current work with a little bit about Owl's Skills School, like what it is and what you do, and how can people kind of maybe find out more about that? Because that's really interesting to me.
Sure. Yeah. So it started out, I began teaching survival skills again in the civilian world with a guy that one of the people that I hiked across the Serengeti with on migrations back in 2015. And Dan called me up and he's like, hey, you want to start a school? I said, hell no. He said, what do you mean? Like, he's like, it was, looked like you were really having fun teaching us stuff out there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I love teaching. I hate this. I hate the
Right.
bureaucracy involved.
Yep.
He's like, oh, no, I mean, you would just be a sister, a satellite school off of me. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
okay. But he wanted all demographics, and that's fine. And so then I became the head instructor for his school, SERE training, and I would do all demographics mostly, but then I'm like, but I really want to teach women and marginalized demographics. So then I'd have come my women's only or my LGBTQ only like classes over here. And so I had a subset of that. And after, literally from the first class that I had at SERE training, doing that, I'm like, I don't think I want to work with like the typical kind of what we
Yeah.
think of as a typical man. I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, they have so many resources for that. There are so many male survival instructors out there. They've got lots of opportunity. And when, it's not their fault, I don't think it's how they're conditioned. Although we can all, right? What is it like? None of us are responsible for the programming we received as children, but as adults, we're 100% responsible
Mhm.
for changing it, right? I
Deprogramming,
really like that quote
deprogramming.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great one. But I'm like, I would watch literally like a couple come in, a man and a woman come in, and I'd teach them knots, for example, and literally watch her try to do the knot the way I taught it. and maybe she's struggling with it, and literally take the ropes out of her hand and teach her the way he does it, right? And I'd be like, "Ugh. Is
Yeah.
there what is more
Yes.
disempowering, right, than that?" And so it wasn't, he's trying to help, and it's like, yeah, but you're not helping. You're giving her so many messages that she is not good enough and that she could never do this and she needs your help. And oh, it's just codependence, out the yin yang. I can't deal with it. Right? I'm like,
Oh my
I
goodness
really need to have a
gracious.
school for women. So, so and being female, I happen to be cis female, but I have so many LGBTQ family, like really family, literally my family, like by blood, and just so many people that become my family. And I'm like, I want to reach out to those people that felt like I did when I was a kid and may still feel that way, that the wilderness isn't for them. And I'm like, oh, it's got so much healing ability and empowering. And it's so beautiful, especially when we've always seen these skills as like, oh, that's Grizzly Adams. That's Jacques Cousteau. That's these white men up there
Yep.
doing their thing. And that's who this is for. And oh, we can't, right? And I'm like, no, no. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go do it. Let's go play. And my training was very military and and I'm like, that's not my personality. So let's go have like badass skills, right? Like really
Mm-hmm.
good, skills that are hard, are skills that are going to work and that anybody can do. It's just learning it. So let's go play. There's no reason why the rest of us can't have that too. So that's my attitude. So I wanted to have a very, SERE training is very survival evasion. It's very militaristic. And that's what we had going on. I'm like, I want OWLSSkills, outdoorsy women learning survival skills. So now
Yeah.
it's most of my classes are just for women or for people who identify as female or non-binary who are comfortable in female spaces. That's what most of my classes are for them. And then once in a while I throw in, because I don't want to exclude the guys either, I want them to be able to come out too. So I'll have all demographics courses as well, but that's now the smaller subset. And most of my classes are for the women.
Oh man, that's amazing. Oh, woman, I should say. Look at that. Like changing my language and on the spot. It reminds me of when I was doing HR training and software training and technical training. I was good, sometimes even really good, but I hated it. And now I do a little bit of webinar training and facilitation, but most of what I do is one-on-one coaching, which is where I have the biggest impact, which is what I love to do. So, it's like 80-20, right? Like you still do the 20% that you got to do, but the 80% of my life now and my work is doing things where
Yes.
I have made an impact and I love. So that begets the question for me of how do you know when you take women or LGBTQ populations and folks, and how do you know you've made an impact in a weekend or however long
Mm,
these programs last? How do you know
yeah.
you've transformed?
I mean, usually what they tell me, right? They'll come up to me after the class and say something. They'll leave Google reviews. I love it when people email me and especially like share pictures. I really enjoy it. Like I've had people learn in my class and they go home and like teach their kids or teach some of their
Oh,
family members, and they'll send me pictures like of their kids or like them building shelters in the backyard or something. So that's a lot of fun. And I've had with masterclass, like you were talking about, like the end especially, I've had a fair amount of people reach out and talk about their own abuse issues. And I did my first talk and it was so hard. I don't feel like I did a very good job because I was so nervous. And I teach all the time, but it was something called the Julie Valentine Center in South Carolina, and I was their keynote speaker last year in February on Valentine's Day. And it is just such a fantastic organization, and it breaks my heart that we need places like that. But boy, if we had one of those within 100 miles of everybody on the planet,
mm,
I mean, we could go
yeah,
so far towards helping people understand how devastating it can be, and at the same time, how incredibly powerful you can come out of that experience being, and that you can heal and you can move forward, and you are so strong to even have survived it. So I was awestruck with them, and I needed to do a 20-minute speech, and it was ridiculously hard for me because it was all about my grandmother's issues with incest and sexual trauma, and then her marrying a pedophile, and then his effect on me.
yeah,
And so it was just a different. I'm used to talking. I'm fine. I like to be an open book when I'm talking
yeah,
about personal issues. I think we need to do that for our
yeah,
own mental health, for connection, for all of that. It's wonderful. Just doing it in front of 900 people with a screen and a microphone and everything felt really disconnected and strange. So that was really hard. But at the same time, like I feel like that's what's going to help people, the more of us that can say, hey, this is my experience and I'm okay now. And
Yeah.
I can, we can help each other to be okay
And
too. And
and
then
how
get beyond
pervasive it
okay.
is. Right? Yeah, apologies for interrupting. How pervasive it is, right? The when you said like within 100 mile radius of every big town or every small village, right? It's just so pervasive, and all these other forms of abuse and violence too, right? It's just we carry a lot of trauma in modern day. I'm not saying it's better or worse than it was 100 years ago. I didn't live 100 years ago, but I just know based on observing and based on having client coaching clients and just existing in the world and living, there's just a lot of burden that we carry, and some people are really good at putting a really great face on, whether it's on
Mhm.
social media or even to their friends, and not getting the support that they need. And I just I think that modalities like nature are just a really psychologically safe space, because you said nature doesn't judge you back. It's like it is the great equalizer, and we're all like we all got to figure this out individually or preferably together, right?
Yeah.
So I think of nature as that equalizer. So um wow. And so you had shared some difficult challenges, that you've had, and what would you say, as sort of maybe in your adult life, what was the most challenging thing that you care to share in terms of your adult life?
Mm. Whew. I've had a lot of physical challenges for sure, like on a loan or getting through SERE school. There were a lot of physical, and that always had some emotional as well. But I was very shut down emotionally as a kid. So I think the most challenging was becoming, I call it becoming human again.
Mm,
Um, so going through wilderness therapy, like I went in there like a robot. The first time I had to tell, and this might have been the hardest moment. I just didn't realize it at the time because I was so shut down emotionally. But in Wilderness Quest was a program that was specifically for addiction, and so I worked there. I've thankfully not had issues with addiction. But my first time, they required everybody, staff included, to tell their life story. And I had never told my life story. And I, at that time, had told maybe 5 people in my life that I'd had infant and childhood sexual abuse. It was always something that's the dirty little secret. You don't tell anybody about that, right? And so the first time I'm telling my life story, which included the childhood abuse, I'd had attempted rapes, I'd had rape, I'd had abandonment by fathers, right? A lot of abuse, primarily by men,
yeah.
unfortunately. And I was telling it alone in the desert with like 12 men. There were like 10 male clients and 2 male staff in the middle of nowhere in the desert around a fire at night. And that's where I have to tell my life story. And at the time, I remember just completely shutting off. This is what I need to do, very robotic. And just, I had made some notes and I just blah, 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 right? Just saying it. And it didn't hit me for a while until quite a bit later that I'm like, I was terrified on so many levels, not just physically, but emotionally and just on so many levels. I was terrified reading that. And I had just locked it all down, locked it away. So that was really, and so you tell a story, big deal, but it was so challenging. It was so hard. And then times beyond that, like I would say a lot of my hardest times were in wilderness therapy, where people would tell me I was a control freak for like a year and a half from all these different corners. You're a control freak. I'm like, I don't understand. What are you talking about? I would literally walk behind someone, a staff member, tying up a shelter for the group, and walk behind them and retie their knots,
Mm,
right? I had so many control, like, I just wasn't human. I was a robot
yeah.
and making huge mistakes on an emotional level with clients. And so grateful it didn't result in anything too horrific with those students because I was being stupid. I was emotionally unaware,
Mm,
completely unaware. And so that was really challenging and very difficult for me, that process of becoming human. And man, me at the beginning versus me at the end, I couldn't feel before I went into wilderness therapy. Feelings were not safe. They just needed to be locked down. And so coming out the other side and feeling like, I kind of feel relaxed and comfortable in my own body. I don't think I've ever felt that way before.
Yeah.
And there's a great story. My first psychology teacher, he gave the story, and I learned it in my 20s. I first heard it in my 20s, and it didn't make sense to me at all until my late 30s when I got into wilderness therapy. He's like, I want you, he did this exercise. We all came in the room, sat down at our desk. He's like, okay, I'm going to do this exercise. Everybody close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that the Judeo-Christian version of God appeared in the room right now. God has appeared. And there's no doubt in your mind the power emanating from this being. This is God. How do you feel right now in the presence of God? And I'm like, hands on the table,
Oh,
sit up straight. I'm like, it's like, okay,
wow.
hold that thought. And now I want you to imagine a puppy. It's the cutest, most adorable
Yes,
puppy you've
yes,
ever seen in
yes,
your life.
yes,
And it's
yes.
running to you and it's piddling on the floor and it's jumping up and it's scratching and it's licking your face, right? Puppy! How do you feel around puppy? Okay, so now how do you want people to see you? God or
Right.
puppy? And I'd
I
realized,
puppy every time.
yeah, for me, for like the
Yeah.
first 30 whatever
Yeah.
years, I was trying to be God. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't connect to people, why nobody
Wow.
really knew me. I didn't feel understood or seen. I was like, and so I held on to that story for all that time. And I finally get in my 30s and start working in wilderness therapy. I'm like, oh my God, I think I get it. All these staff members, they're trying to be puppies. I need to share my mistakes, my faults, my embarrassments, my
Mhm.
tragedies, my trauma. If I want to connect to people, I got to show who I am. I got to lay down on the floor like a puppy with my belly exposed. I got to be vulnerable. And that was huge for me. And that's so now I get to be a puppy, and it's so much more fun.
It is, and it's less draining, and it's effortless, and it flows. And I mean, I'll say this: when I'm coaching people, and I've coached, at this point over 700 people across dozens of countries and every continent, including there was someone who we were working with, and they went to Antarctica during our engagement. So I'm counting that as a sort of yeah maybe for Antarctica, but the truth is some of my clients come to me and they've done no work. They've either said, oh, coaching is something that's, my company's paying for, or my boss said I should do. It's almost like remedial. I'm like, no, coaching isn't about fixing. Coaching is about elevating and getting you to the best version of yourself, to make life effortless, to make those boardroom conversations or those pitches more successful and effortless and seamless, to have fun and joy and levity in the office, to feel fulfilled. Coaching for me is, for many of my clients, I see it's an entree point to things like wilderness therapy or yoga or meditation, or sometimes, therapy and medication, whatever, everyone decides for themselves, but
Yeah.
it is a powerful thing. And I am so grateful that I can be a little bit of that sort of that vehicle for people.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so rewarding, right?
Yeah.
To be able to help
It is.
people heal and move forward and feel empowered. Oh, we're
I
lucky,
love the
right?
puppies. I love the puppies because just as I was sharing before I hit record with you briefly, um, I looked up today and there was this beautiful solar, not flare, but like a sun halo, solar halo, and it was just divine. And then I saw a beautiful 3-year-old puppy that was just full of lickety, sloppy energy and licking my knees and everything outside. Um, and I was like, yeah, this is love, this is beauty, this is awesomeness, this is joy. There's no drama, there's no judgment. And that was my mindset coming into this episode, coming with you. So I was like, this is going to be fantastic, and it hasn't been anything but fantastic. So I thank you. Um, what's so just wanted to, like, if people want to participate in this wilderness therapy, tell us where you're based, how people can get involved, where they can learn more about you and what you do.
Sure. Yeah, I don't work in wilderness therapy anymore.
Got
There
it.
always tends to be a therapeutic bent, though, to most of my classes.
Yes.
Um, Somehow, I think once you do that kind of thing, it's going to come out whatever you're doing, which is good.
Yeah.
So mostly I just teach the hard skills now. But yeah, especially the longer, like the overnight classes, if whether it's a weekend or a week long, we usually end up having some really good and sometimes difficult conversations around the fire. I'm mostly based out of Denver area, but I do fly kind of all over. So I've been up in Montana with Callie Russell from season 7 of Alone. She's a wonderful friend and beautiful human being. So we've done Wild Women on the Water. I think she's going to do it alone this year, first time. I think she's going to try to do it alone, which is awesome. I just hope she has so much fun with it. So that's beautiful. So sometimes that's up in Montana. Carrie Lee and I might be doing something, I think, in Idaho this year. Um, let's see, I do things over in Vermont. So I love the Vermont area, and I have a friend up there who's got some property. So we do classes up there. I might be going up to Canada sometime this year or maybe next year and doing some classes up there. I've just connected with somebody down in Hermosa, New Mexico. He bought it's Natural Curiosity is his company, and they're
Okay.
nonprofit, and they do a lot of, oh, he's a conservation biologist. So Dr. Travis Perry, so he does a lot of stuff down there. So we're working on collaborating this year and running courses and things. So yeah, I like to travel all over really and
Yeah.
teach classes wherever people are, and private courses, right? Custom courses. So if people contact me and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to have you for a friends gathering or a birthday party," or I've even done bachelorette parties, right?
Wow.
Where people just want to do something a little different and they want to learn survival skills. So yeah, family gatherings and things. I enjoy all of it. I think it's a lot more fun. So I get to go play, and that's key for me. If I do the same thing over and over again, I start to go, "Ugh,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really
That's
like
amazing.
to, yeah, I like to go
Wow.
play. So all over the
I
place.
I'll just plug your amazing website, owlsskills.com. So owls like the plural of the owl, owlsskills.com. Awesome website, awesome. What what you do is just so meaningful. I'm biased because I love nature and I know her healing powers. So there's that. But I just wanted to thank you for your awesome energy and the impact that you've made on countless people, but the impact that you've made on me. So I'm really
Mm,
grateful for you. Thank you so much, Jessie.
absolutely. Thank you for doing what you're doing. You can't see in anybody else what you don't already possess. So
Oh, I like that. Again, dropping all these gems. Thank you so much.
so so
Be
thank
well.
you.
Take care.
You too. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.